stopped, put my stuff down, put my pants on, put a sweatshirt on. And so I'd imagine 10, 15 minutes had gone by. I literally turned the street and heard a loud explosion.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lehigh Valley with Love podcast. I'm your host, George Wacker, and today we're talking with Lisa Dente, who is running the Boston Marathon on April 17th as a member of Rebekah's Angels charity team. Her goal is to raise $7,000, and we hope we can help her out. Rebekah's Angels Foundation was founded by Rebekah Gregory, a Boston Marathon bombing survivor. Her foundation was created when she struggled to find mental health resources and treatment for her son after experiencing the tragic event on April 15th, 2013. This will be the first time Lisa returns to the Boston Marathon since that day, the last time she ran it. All of the links we have for Lisa's campaign are in our show notes, or simply search Rebekah's Angels for more information. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Kitchen Magic, Michael Bernardin with Remax Real Estate, Molly's Irish Grill and Sports Pub, made possible in the Lehigh Valley, the Wind Creek Event Center, and our friends at WXPN. Let's get into it and try to help Lisa get even more money for her campaign. And we're looking forward to her running the 127th Boston Marathon. Let's get to it. All right. Hello, Lisa. Welcome on the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
We were talking before this, like going over, these are the questions we'll ask. And we find out we know a lot of the same people. We won't get into details, but we know a lot of people from like college and such. So it kind of shows you how the Lehigh Valley with 1 million people or many as it has, how it's still a small neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're here today to talk about Rebekah's Angels.
Yes.
And also the upcoming Boston Marathon. And before we get into the fundraiser, the nonprofit, and if you see the QR code in the top here on that side, you can click it at any time and get more information on it. But I want to learn a little bit more about you, Lisa. So can you give us, a description or tell us what you're all about? I know you're a teacher in Bangor, but can you give us kind of your truncated life story of how you got to this?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Lehigh Valley resident. I was at, Bethlehem Area School District always says built by Bethlehem. I was built by Bethlehem. I graduated from Liberty High School in 1999. And I have two children, ages 14 and 11, Joey and Emma, and we live in Nazareth currently. I live there with my husband, who actually went to college in Bethlehem as well, at Moravian.
And we just found it out.
And so I've lived in the Lehigh Valley my whole life. I went to college out in Western PA and then moved back and ended up getting a job in Bangor right out of college. So I'm in my 19th year of teaching, even though I know I don't look that old.
You definitely don't. And 19 is a long time. I mean,
yeah.
We're the same age, so I'm not, but no, yep. It's great that you've been doing it for so long.
Yes, 19 years, same district. I'm at 5-6 level for 15 years, and then I've been at the K-2 level for the last this is my 5th year there as a reading specialist. And I'm also back at Lehigh for my admin certification currently. So I have a lot going on and just always keeping busy.
So have you always been a runner? Have you always run marathons, or what has your running career been like? Are you a high school runner? And then...
No. So funny story, which is kind of what makes my story, I think, a little bit more unique, is that I loved field hockey. In middle school, I played field hockey, played freshman year at Liberty. They took everyone, so it wasn't like there were cuts, but I don't think anyone described me as athletic. And so sophomore year of field hockey came, there was a new coach, and we had to do a 2-mile timed run, and I couldn't complete it without stopping to walk, and I was cut from the team, and I was devastated. And so I had always played tennis just for fun with my neighbor. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll try tennis. But to say getting cut from the field hockey team was traumatic, I think is an understatement. You could probably ask my mom. She was so upset because I was just crushed. But I went out for the tennis team. I ended up playing Division II tennis in college, which is kind of crazy. because whoever would have thought. But I started running in college for fun with one of my teammates.
Mhm.
And then my sister was like, hey, let's do this 5K in Philly. It was for breast cancer on Mother's Day. I'm like, okay, this sounds like fun. So, and it was a blast. And I was hooked from that moment. And I just started looking for 5Ks everywhere, and just started running for fun. Um, I started doing half marathons, and then I had my son, and my friend was like, hey, let's sign up for another half. And I was like, I think I'm going to do the full. And I just signed up for the full and started training. And my second marathon in 2012, I qualified for Boston. I
Mhm.
woke up that morning, figured out the math, and was like, I think I could qualify. I didn't say a word to anybody, but I was just like, I think I could do this. And sure enough, I did it by like 2.5 minutes.
And for
Um,
those who aren't aware, qualifying for Boston, if you're not going to the Olympics, if you're not in college, qualifying for Boston is kind of the pinnacle, right, of amateur running. If you're a marathoner, of course.
yeah.
So I mean it's a accomplishment in and of itself to be able to run there. But 2 minutes, not shabby to be
Yeah, it
above.
was pretty cool. I had to be under 3:35, and I think it was like 3:32, 31 or something like that. So of course I was like, I'm signing up, like I'm going to
Mhm.
Boston. And so my whole family was like, well, we're all going to Boston. And I ended up just like going crazy training, and
Mhm.
had a pelvic stress reaction. So got pretty
Oh,
hurt leading up to Boston, and ended up in physical therapy. And they told me, maybe you could just, run it another year. You could qualify again. Like, we don't know if this is realistic. And I was like, no, I have to go this year. It has to be this year. And so I kind of like just did everything I could. I biked. I did everything that I could do that wasn't pounding and running.
to let
And
yourself heal up, right?
yep. And I ended up there, and wasn't in the best condition as I'd hoped, but I was still fine. But there were lots of times that I wanted to stop on that course
I'm
on that
sure.
day. And something kept me moving, because had I slowed, had I stopped, I only finished about 20 minutes prior to the bombs going off. So had I stopped
Mhm.
like I wanted to, I definitely would have landed myself in that time frame. So there's only somebody watching over me that day.
And of course, as much as you're comfortable talking about, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Boston Marathon bombing and all the events that occurred after that. And of course, we're going to be talking more about some people who are continuing to this day to be affected by that. What was your experience? I'm sure you finish, you're elated, you're exhausted, and then you said about 20 minutes later,
Yeah.
is it just, do you not know what's going on, or you just, what, how was that? Can you describe that?
Yeah. So I finished. A couple of things strange happened that day. So I had gotten a text message that my mom was going to stay back at the hotel with my 2-year-old daughter because she woke up vomiting. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? She's gonna miss.
Right.
She's gonna miss me
Hmm.
finish. Like, I can't believe this." Like, I was so upset, so bummed. And then a little bit while later, I got a text from my husband saying that they were going to be around mile 25 to like cheer me on. And I was like, why wouldn't they go to the finish line? Like, they're not going to see me
Right.
finish. I was like selfishly annoyed. And there's a reason for everything.
Hmm.
So I finished. I got a text message from my good friend back home. And he's like, we're so proud of you. Great job. Like, we've been cheering you on all day. Cause I guess back home at school, I taught in the 5-6 building. So they had been tracking me
That
and
was fun.
announcing to the school where I was at on the course. And so they announced I finished, and they were all getting word as dismissal was happening that there were bombs going off. So it was just
Hmm.
very chaotic for everybody back home. But they knew more than we did. So when I finished, I walked about, I don't even know how far it was. They have like a big area where they have school buses where you collect your things. So I walked forward, collected my things, walked back right towards the finish line. And I looked up at I don't know if they were, I guess, directors, I don't know. And I said, which way do I go to the family meeting area? And they were like, you want to turn and go on the next street. And
Hmm.
so I was like, man, I'm freezing. Because when you stop, all of a sudden, your body really gets cold.
Right.
So I stopped, put my stuff down, put my pants on, put a sweatshirt on. And so I'd imagine 10, 15 minutes had gone by. I literally turned the street and heard a loud explosion.
Hmm.
But there was a huge building on the side of me, so I didn't see anything. And at that point, I just looked up to the sky and I was like, is that thunder? Like, what is that?
You're in a city. I mean,
Yeah, it
car
was,
backfiring, right?
yeah, it was loud, but I was just like, what was that? And then I walked a little bit further and they have it all alphabetized. So I looked up, I'm trying to find D, and then another explosion. I'm like, what is that? And I look and there's my family right away. And I was
Hmm.
like, my
Oh
husband's
my
like, we got to
God!
get
Thank
out of
like,
here. Something's
yeah.
eerie. I don't know what's going on. Um, and then like immediately, like just people running everywhere, screaming, crying, sirens. But we still had no idea what happened. It was the most bizarre thing to be that close but not know what was going on.
Hmm.
Um, and then finally you hear people screaming and explaining like what's going on, and I'm like, I was just there. What, like, how could that be happening?
Right.
um and my dad, who is like calm, cool, and collected all the time, the voice of reason, he's like, I can't get a call out to your mother, I can't get in touch with her because all the cell service went down. So we literally had no way to like get in touch with people. But for some, my husband was able to get "We Are Okay" out on Facebook. And so that was how my mom knew we were okay. Like, it was the only way, and I don't know how it went through, but that was
Right.
how we were able to communicate. Um, so it was wild because we were supposed to take the subway um, to get back to the airport, to get the airport shuttle back to our hotel, and everything was shut down. So here I am. I
Hmm.
just ran this marathon. We've got 4-year-olds with us. My sister had all her kids.
You're
And
exhausted. Like you
it was,
literally just ran a marathon, right?
yeah. And they were like, we
Uh,
had to walk and just try to get as far away from that area as we could and try to find a way
hmm.
out of the city. And eventually, um, a bus just pulled over and we're like, just get on, everybody get on. And I always relate it back to the movie Speed, when they're all on the bus and everybody's just
Hmm.
staring forward. And it was just so,
Yeah.
so out of body experience. It wasn't until like late that night that I saw on the camera on the TV what had happened. And uh, it just, it was very, very difficult to like
Especially
put,
because you were literally just there,
yeah.
So like to see that.
Yeah.
I,
And you
I
go
mean,
through like a lot of it, you go through a lot of emotion thinking like,
mhm.
feeling guilty for feeling like it affected you so much when you weren't physically injured. I did not see the aftermath, that we were shielded. I mean,
Mhm.
it was amazing how protected we were. But it affects you forever, you know.
And to this day, because why we are talking today is because of Rebekah's Angels. I'm not gonna, for people who are watching, I'm gonna bring this up. Um, but can you give us a little bit of the story of Rebekah Gregory's story? She
Yeah,
was injured, her and her son during this time. So if you want to tell a little bit about this and then how maybe you got involved with this organization.
sure. Yeah, Rebekah Gregory was in Boston for the first time ever in her life that weekend. She was there to celebrate her 26th birthday, actually. And she was there with her son. And they decided, hey, let's go see the Boston Marathon. Like, this is what you do when you come to Boston on marathon weekend. And they were 3 feet from the bombs when the bombs
Jeez.
exploded. And somehow she ended up pretty much like on top of her 5-year-old son and shielded him. And he was, he was protected physically. But she has endured, I believe it's 76 surgeries to this
Oh my
date.
God.
She just had another one in the recent months. And so her dream was to run the marathon on the 10th anniversary of the bombing, which is this April.
Hmm.
Um, and so, well, just to tell you a little bit more about Rebekah. So, she began this charity because she found that there were resources for adults who were going through post-traumatic stress disorder, but there weren't a lot of resources for young children. So they had a hard time finding services for her son Noah, to help
Hmm.
him through, because um, when I first met her recently, as a part of this team, she described what she saw on the street and what he saw on the street, and you know, body parts, and remembering someone tying a tourniquet around her, and you know, um, everything that they saw and went through, they needed help, and her family needed help afterwards. And so she decided 5 years ago to start this charity, Rebekah's Angels, which provides mental health services for people overcoming or enduring traumatic events. So any kind of traumatic event, but specifically geared towards children as well. So they developed a team of people to provide services all over the country. So they explained that, even though they're based in Florida, they will fly either people to them or fly support to people that need it. So it's a fairly new charity, but obviously very, very necessary. Being a teacher in a school, I see children that suffer from trauma all the
Sure.
time. It doesn't have to be bombs going off to be traumatic. And
Right.
Even if it doesn't seem like it would be traumatic to us, it's all in how people perceive what has happened to them. So we know mental health in this world right now is a crisis in itself. And so being able to provide support for people is huge.
And I think beyond even the sponsorship, the monetary donations, the awareness as well,
Yes,
to say
exactly.
that it's okay to seek out help. And in fact, it's important then to maybe seek out help for those, like a child who might not be even asking for that help, that they don't know that they need it.
Right.
But just to acknowledge that and to understand that they do, I think is something important as well. And so that leads us to you're coming. You said it's the 10th anniversary,
Yep.
and one of the things as I was scrolling through here too, on her website it says, turning obstacles into opportunities. Is this your first time that you are heading back to Boston since then? Have you?
Yes.
How has your 10-year yours been in between then?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
clearly you've kept running. So.
yeah. Yeah. So I tried to requalify multiple times with a lot of failure, but a lot of learning along the way. I would say I beat my body up pretty good. I came within like maybe 10, 12 minutes a couple times,
So
which
hard.
is, when you get to like mile 20 that you're off and you're not going to get it. Like there's no making up time at mile 20, not for someone like me anyway. So like, you get to mile 20 and you're like, I know I'm not going to do it. Like
just enjoy these last 6.2 miles.
Enjoy or get through. So,
Right.
So actually I've run, gosh, I think it's 11, maybe 10 full marathons at total. Boston was my third. And then I've done 2 ultras since. So I have a friend.
So which, like a 50 or 100? Like how ultra?
Yeah, so we've done, it's called a looper. So you do as many loops as you can in a certain amount of time. So ours was a 3.75 mile loop, as many times as you can. In the first one was 8 hours and the second was 12. So the most I've done in one shot is 48. But
wait, 48 miles,
uh-huh.
which is like, I'm a guy. I ran today. I'm not trying to say, it still blows my mind, because back in the day, there would be people like, you run for fun, and even when you're training competitively and you're on a college team. But even for me, as someone who has enjoyed running a long distance here and there, 48 miles is that nonstop? I mean, minus maybe a bathroom break in there, or
right, exactly, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So like the looper's the best if you ever want to like see how far you can go. It's the best format because once you start another loop, you're out there, so you're gonna finish it no matter what. But I'm hoping actually that those experiences help me with this one, because definitely not fast anymore. Those days were short-lived in my younger years.
Those days they're short in general, right? You're fast for a very short period of time, and then you can be able to do 48 milers. It's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, it's just fun to like set that goal and challenge, and to have somebody to do it with. I have a friend who does crazier things than that, and so she kind of talked me into it. My husband thinks it's absolutely insane, and wants no part of it. But it's fun. So I'm hoping that will help me with a different mindset going into this. But the way I got selected to be on the team, Rebekah her goal was to run this race at the 10th anniversary, and she just had another surgery. And so it was crushing for her because she can't even use her prosthetic leg right now. So she's in a wheelchair until she heals. She just had so much shrapnel and, whatever other crazy things they put in those bombs, just destroyed her leg. So she is unable to run. And so she kind of made this Facebook post one day, I would say it was right after the holidays, and said, I can't run it. I'm looking to form the best team. We still have a spot available. Send me your story. And I was like, I'm going to send my story. And my husband was like, that's insane. Like, you have to fundraise. And I'm like, I know, but this is like, it's the 10th anniversary. Like, I've been dying to go back. And this just seems like the perfect way. Like, it's not about me, it's about the charity. So I sent my story and found out like a day or two later that she picked me.
Wow.
And I cried a lot. It was really emotional to be picked and just to be like, have that realization that I'm going to go back.
Right.
I think that some of my family was a little bit nervous and skeptical when I told them.
I mean, I can understand, I'm sure. Yeah.
And then my husband was a little nervous. He's like, I don't know if you can raise $7,000. And I'm already like I think I'm at 80% of the way.
Are you?
Which is outstanding. Yeah. A lot happened over the weekend.
That's great.
But if I hit the 7, I'm just going to go for 10 and raise as much money as I can for this.
I think the 7,000 is just like a guideline. We'll get to that and then go.
Yeah.
So for that's a straight sponsorship. You're collecting sponsorships before the race, and that's it. And then those go directly to Rebekah's Angels Foundation.
Correct. Yep. 100% goes to her. Yep.
Which is going to all that wonderful stuff that you described, and we're going to talk about. For people who are if you're watching, you can click that QR code up there. For people who are listening, we have your link in our show notes. And if you go to lbwithlove.com, you can find that. No problem. We'll make sure it's very visible and at the top. And I think, can you also go to the Rebekah's Angels website if you just want to donate in general?
Yep, definitely.
There's a donate button up there as well. So did you attempted to qualify a couple other times, you said. So did you just happen to qualify in the 10th anniversary of,
when you run for, yeah, great question. So when you run for charity, you do not need a qualifying time. Okay. So it's kind of, I always swore I would never do that. Like, I always feel like I'm kind of like cheating myself because I didn't make the time. But that's why
this seems like a gift.
It is. And that's why they have like a strict guideline with the fundraising. So our team's goal is $100,000. And so there's 10 of us on the team. Individually, that we all have a goal to raise 7,000. But if you actually click on my link, you can actually click on the Rebekah's Angels Boston Marathon team, and you can see all of my teammates, and you can you can read each of their stories. I was fortunate enough to meet my team, I think like 2 weeks ago on Zoom, and everyone has a story. So there's other people that were there that day with me. One finished, one didn't. Some have never been back since that day. So some of us are in the same boat of overcoming kind of that fear of being there and crossing that finish line again. And then we have a first responder on our team who sees traumatic things all the time. And he felt like this was the perfect fit for him. Rebekah's husband is running. He is not a distance runner, not a runner. And he is running this for his wife. So I'll get to
when he finishes, he will be.
That's right. So there's everybody's story is on that site, which is kind of cool. So,
well, we will be donating, and it's just amazing how much you're able to put yourself aside and really like this is for other people, even though it's for you. You're running it. I mean, you still have to run the marathon, but to really to make this more than about you and more than about just running a race is amazing. And I think that's what you said in the beginning, like just being able to find something good out of what happened that day, which affected so many people. And it's amazing. It's wonderful that she created this foundation, and we're so happy that you reached out to them and you're doing it and you're going to make the Lehigh Valley proud. So
I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to have this. My husband told me this is your dream. This
Hmm.
is what you've wanted for the last 10 years, is to go back there and face the finish line. Um, and it is for a bigger purpose this time. But I think
Sure.
a lot of times that's why these things happen, is to kind of, you know, put things into perspective for everybody and to kind of
Mhm.
make you live your life a little differently. Some of the work I do through teaching and education, I train other schools in the summer. And I always say, you know, you don't need to wait for tragedy to live your life differently. But
Sure.
oftentimes we do. We wait for, you know, a diagnosis comes or a tragic event happens, someone dies, and it changes how we look at life and live our life. But we don't need to wait for something like that to happen. We can start living our life differently right now. So that's kind of been my goal, is to kind of make people realize that don't wait for that big
Sure.
event to happen. Start living your life the way you want to live it now and make a difference. So that's what I hope
Well,
I'm doing.
I'm so glad we connected. I'm so glad I got your email. This no is really fantastic. We wish you the best. Anybody who needs information is in our show notes, or again, lbwithlove.com. We'll have it at the top. Lisa, it's been a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. And I love how too the Lehigh Valley is such a small world that
Yes.
I'm gonna text people like, I didn't know you knew her.
That's funny.
I
George,
love
thank
it.
you so
And
much for having me.
yeah,
This is amazing. My first podcast.
absolutely. No, perfect. Well, best of luck. Again, Rebekah's Angels. Please make sure you check them out. Google them. Hit our show notes for all the specific links. And Lisa, best of luck. You can just finish that marathon and just loop back around and do another.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Thank you
ultra
so
marathon is
much.
great. So, hey,
Thanks.
have a wonderful time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.